Hi.
Thanks for logging on. We're just waiting for some folks to join in here, and then we'll get started. And I'm Paige for everyone that I haven't talked to. Thank you guys for coming. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started, just, to be respectful of everyone's time. Hopefully we'll have a few more people log on as I'm going through these beginning details, and we'll get everyone logged in. My name is Paige Smith, and I am the events program manager here in the undergraduate admissions office. And so I'm really excited to bring to you today our second installment of our Inclusive Excellence series, being LGBTQA at Wright State. We have some wonderful panelists here today that are going to talk about their experiences here. We're going to have an open discussion. But before we get to that panel, I'm going to, give you some general information about Wright State, as well as some admissions information, of course. And if you have any questions at any time, there is a Q&A feature and a chat feature. Oh, awesome, Sydney. I'm glad we've met before. And so, again, there's the chat that they've just used and Q&A. So feel free to ask any questions there. We do have some prepared questions, but we would love to get questions from everyone that's logged on today. And so let me get this. So at Wright State, we want you to do more than just find your education. And these series are really about helping finding your people, finding your passion, your mentor, and your future. So what is inclusive excellence? So this is a term that Wright State has come up with to kind of describe what our goal here at Wright State. So especially in the undergraduate admissions office, for us, it's to recruit a more diverse student body. But the inclusive excellence is a broad definition of diversity. It melds the inclusiveness and academic excellence into one concept as the university. It shifts diversity and inclusion to everyone's responsibility and not just one office's responsibility, because it's all of our responsibility to have an inclusive and open campus. It moves away from the numeric goals of what kind of students we're trying to create, and it just creates a space that any student would feel welcome and want to come to Wright State. And then it focuses, focus on structural, cultural transformations of the university, and it's something that we're doing every day and hopefully improving every day as well. And we'll have some opportunity for the panel to weigh in on that. So one of the ways that we have created these open spaces is through our Culture and Identity Centers. So we do have 4 Culture and Identity Centers all listed up here. Tonight's event is in partnership with our Office of LGBTQA Affairs. But we do want to highlight all of our Culture and Identity Centers because identity doesn't stop at one identity. Everyone has lots of different things that they identify with. So to highlight some of the other ones, it's our Belinga Black Cultural Center, our LANA Center, which is Latinx, Asian, and Native American Affairs, and then our Women's Center. And these centers provide special programs and activities and student services that celebrate the diversity that we have on our campus in one convenient location. Then I also wanted to highlight our student organizations. And I've highlighted especially a few of the ones that are specific for LGBTQA students. But we have over 180 different student organizations that you can join to start finding the people that you connect with here on campus. So whether that be a community organization, academic clubs, student associations, or affinity networks, these are great ways to connect with other students that are similar to your true self. And as well as there's lots of opportunities to connect with others all around campus through the different events that these programs hold. And so to talk a little bit about admission stuff and just remind you of deadlines. So we do have our financial aid and scholarships. And we bring this up too because there's scholarships that you can qualify for through the Office of LGBTQA Affairs. And I know that Emily will be talking about some of those. But some of the other scholarships that you can qualify for as a first-year student are academic performance scholarships. Our competitive scholarships can be based on lots of things. You fill out one application and it qualifies you for over 400 different scholarships, and you can apply for these each year. And then we are offering need-based scholarships this year as well. So once you fill out the FAFSA, you send it to us. We can see if you have any unmet need and see if we can offer some scholarships to help you close that gap. And then you can apply at wright.edu/apply. Our application is absolutely free. And if you have any questions, that's what I'm here for, to answer any questions about admissions or scholarships, financial aid, and just how to come on to Wright State. And then, of course, our panel is here to talk about what your experience will be like once you get here. And then, as I mentioned before, identity doesn't stop at one. So we encourage everyone to check out some of our other on-campus events, and especially our Inclusive Excellence event series. So this is the second one of these series that we've done. Our first one was navigating a predominantly white institution. And that video of that virtual event is on our website at thewright.edu/visit. So if you wanted to go check that out, if you missed it. And then some upcoming ones that we're having is in November, we'll be hosting one about supporting first-generation college students. And then in December, we'll host one about how students with disabilities can successfully transition to college. And again, those are all available at wright.edu. And so my portion of this event is over. I've given you all the important facts, but now I really want to get to the student panel because that's what you guys are all here for, to hear from our wonderful students. Again, if you have any questions, you can put them in the Q&A in the chat, and I'll make sure the panelist gets them. And at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see everyone's faces. And I will ask the first question. So what was your first impression of Wright State when you were deciding where you wanted to go to college when you were in high school? If either of you want to start.
I can go. So my first impression, or like one of my first impressions, I guess you could say, was that it was very like community based and like community focused. I noticed that like it was just like there was a strong, especially like the LGBTQA community, which I was like really interested in obviously. I just noticed there was a strong community feel.
I mostly chose to come to Wright State because it's near my family, and I commuted my freshman year, and now I live off campus. I remember being at like orientation where you like schedule all your classes, and like walking by the CER, and I saw like all the like queer things all up on the wall, and I was like, "Ooh, I want to go there when school starts." And then I had to figure out what building it was again and again. But yeah, and like I just felt like all of the like various like things for people of different identities are like
All right. Well, we will come back to them when they log back on. And so I have a question that maybe there you are. Sorry, you cut out there for a second. And I think your mic is out right now, so you might want to try to connect it back.
hello.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next question, and then we'll see if we can get them back. And so how do you encourage students to find their fit once they step onto campus? So they've chosen Wright State, and it's that first day that they have arrived, whether it be to the residence halls or on campus. How do those students start exploring all of the things that you kind of mentioned already?
Is it gonna let me talk? Can you hear me? I would say just like go to things and talk to people, and talk to people that are in your major and that aren't in your major. Like everyone feels the same way you do, and everyone else also doesn't know anyone, and everyone else also feels kind of weird going to all these things they don't know anyone. So just do it because that's how you meet people.
Yeah, I was basically gonna say like the exact same thing. Just get involved. Like go out and do the events and try new things and meet new people. Everyone's in the same boat. This is, if you're coming in, you're either coming in as a freshman or a transfer student. So like you're new, just like everyone else. And so it's important that you like just get involved. Just if there's an event if that sounds cool, or something that you've never tried before, it's your time to try it.
And I'm going to plug some programs. So, because they didn't plug them for themselves. So, we have lots of first weekend stuff that we do. We have lots of first year student programs. So, Jules is our coordinator for our Unicornship Peer Mentor program, which pairs LGBTQA first year students with upper class students to help them work on their academic goals, their personal goals, get to know people. Even if it's just getting to know one other person, that's a start. We also host, along with the other culture and identity centers and Rainbow Alliance, we host an ice cream social every year. We even did it this year, masked, distanced, all of the great things, on the first Friday after students move in. So even just kind of jumping, and we probably will do in the future, and I know they did it virtually this year, but we always do a student organization fair the first weekend, which is a really easy thing to just go and walk around. Like, you don't have to interact with people. But yeah, I just wanted to mention some like specific programs too that you can get involved in as soon as you get here.
And I am a Wright State alum, and I went here a long, long time ago, but I do remember first weekend there always being a scavenger hunt hosted by Rainbow Alliance too, that I participated in a couple of years. So it's that first weekend you can start meeting lots of great people. So we've kind of already talked about this, but I would like to expand it a little bit about what student organizations there are that you can connect with other students. And it can be LGBTQA specific, but also plug any other student organizations that you're involved in, just so it shows the range of what we have here at Wright State.
Okay.
Okay.
Drew, do you want to go? Okay, never mind. I am involved. I was involved, kind of involved in French club. French is my minor, so like I definitely plug French club. And then I'm also part of Psychi, which is like the honor society for psychology students. And let's see, what else have I tried? There was this like volunteering organization that I tried going to a few times. That was pretty cool. And obviously Rainbow Alliance. I think like getting involved with like events that other organizations put on, like the other Culture and Identity Center organizations put on, like Lana and Belinda in the Women's Center, like any events that they have are really cool to go to and everything. So yeah.
I throughout I'm a senior, so like since my freshman year, I've been pretty involved in Rainbow Alliance and the office. And I'm also somewhat involved in OCMEA, which is like the music education student org. And I had a whole thought that was gonna go on. Student org, Rainbow.
Do you guys want to describe? Oh, go ahead.
And I try to like get involved in other stuff that's happening on campus. And just like Jules said, like different organizations that are doing things. But like those are the only two organizations that like I personally
It does not like it to work today. Well, and then so while we're waiting for them to come back, if you guys want to talk about like what Rainbow Alliance is, in case anyone didn't know what that is, that was something that I was involved with when I was back at Wright State. And so if you guys could just give an overview of what Rainbow Alliance does.
Sure. So Rainbow Alliance is our student organization on campus. We are separate from the Office of LGBTQA Affairs. We're our own organization. And we basically are a community of LGBTQA students. Allies are welcome too, but we're mostly like all LGBTQA. And we just like, it's a club. We meet Wednesdays, 6:30 to 8. every Wednesday. Right now we're meeting virtually, but we often do it, like in regular years, we do it in person. And we host events. So like we just hosted like game night, mass tie-dyeing. Usually, we have queer prom and the drag show and everything. So we're just involved in a lot, and we like offer a lot of opportunities to get involved and for LGBTQA students to connect with each other, and to connect with resources on campus. We're like kind of like the liaison also for like the Office of LGBTQA Affairs. So like, if there's someone who, wants to be a part of the uniformship peer mentor program, we can kind of bridge those two together and get people involved in that through the Office of LGBTQA Affairs. So yeah.
Thank you for doing that. So if anyone want to share some of their favorite Wright State traditions that they would encourage every student to, do while they're here.
That's a hard one.
What I always, just to give you an example, what I always say is at least go to one NKU game, basketball game, because the spirit is live. You can see, that's our most attended game, so you can see lots of friends. And the last one, I think it was some event that a Blinga puts on. Now I'm drawing a blank. It might have been that, Emily. I'm sorry, I could read your lips. But so just anything that, and it doesn't have to be a huge thing, but something that you make sure you do every year.
I'll go ahead. I'll share one because I'm also an alum from way back when. But I still love the kind of 2 outdoor fairs that we have in the fall and the spring, Fall Fest and what used to be April Craze, but is now May Days, I think is the switch, or the other way around. And see, it's been long enough. I just love those because they're outside, the weather's beautiful, everybody's out on campus. It's all the not only campus folks, but also community people giving away free stuff, food trucks. Like, it's just fun. It's just a nice like fall and spring event where you can check everything out and have a nice time.
Can you hear me? It gives me no indication when I cut out, so I have no idea. I was gonna say Fall Fest and April Craze too. And I'd also say for freshmen, our ice cream social. And then our drag show is also the biggest event that Rainbow Alliance puts on. And like lots of people come, obviously not just people from Rainbow Alliance, and not just Wright State students. And it is a fundraiser for some of our LGBTQ scholarships.
Also queer prom.
That one too.
Yeah, I really like queer prom a lot. I was going to say for students living on campus, I think the Bridge Cafe it's not open this year, but I think like in general, it's a really cool place to go. I remember like going there like almost every day in my freshman year. And that was a lot of fun. And then I was going to say also April Craze and Fall Fest as well, in the basketball games. And I think the shows like that the Creative Arts Center puts on is really cool. So I definitely like to try and go see like the plays and musicals and the concerts, the music concerts and the dance concerts. I really like those a lot too.
All right, awesome, thanks. And I do just want to remind the attendees that there is the chat. And Drew just put a great link in the chat to their weekly virtual meetings that you can join. Also encourage you to put some questions in there if you have any specific questions. And so the next question I have would be, do you feel supported by the university? And then where do you think the university has room to improve when it comes to inclusive excellence?
I would say that I feel most supported by the faculty here on campus, especially like Emily and my psychology professors and everything are pretty supportive. And more so like them than like the university as a whole, if that makes sense. I definitely think one issue that could be a little bit better would be the bathroom situation. We have fought very hard for like all gender bathrooms to be put in places, and there's been a lot of pushback. There's been a lot of like really negative comments that people have made about it. And so we could use a lot more support with that, definitely. But yeah.
I definitely agree with what Jules said about like faculty are generally really supportive and accepting. And Wright State is also doing a lot of kind of like rebranding right now with inclusive excellence and like really pursuing that, which I think is great. I agree with Jules that the all gender bathrooms are still a situation. We fought for more, we got more, and then some of them got rolled back, which is unfortunate. And another thing that I would really like if there was a way to do better would be just like communicating like the pronouns that students use to professors, which I know there's like a thing that is happening with that, whatever, Emily. So like it's getting there, but I just think that a lot of people find it especially non-binary people that use they them pronouns, it's kind of awkward to communicate that to your professors, especially like if you're not also like sending an email like saying anyway that like this is the name I use, this is the name you might have. But Wright State does have a way that you can change your name on your ID and in wings and on all your class rosters, which is really great. So yeah.
Yeah, in addition to that, I would say like just like in general, normalizing pronouns, pronoun usage and normalizing the question like what are your pronouns and such, and to make it more of a comfortable space for people who use, who use all kinds of different pronouns. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess I like what the students who are on the panel are kind of coming at the end of, and it is taking quite some time to put into place. But we are finalizing, hopefully, with data, with like institutional research, all of these different data pieces to then hopefully push to everyone else. So that's sort of what Drew was talking about. Like we're going to start capturing pronouns in Banner, which is kind of like our catch-all data, everything, and then we will start putting in place the like the codes to get to the proper places. So to make sure that it gets on class rosters and things like that, so that you don't have to do those things. And that it'll just make it more seamless for everyone. So
I did not know that was happening.
All right. Well, thank you all for sharing that. And so my next question is kind of in conjunction with that. So if you did experience an issue on campus, do you feel that you have a support system, that your voice would be heard, and kind of any experiences that you've had with that if you'd like to share?
I definitely feel like the university and the systems in place are pretty supportive. We've had just like a couple things happen throughout the years of like people like sticking signs on our door, or I think it was last year we painted the rock and then someone like painted part of the rock and it was very confusing and we were like, I don't know if this is hate speech, I don't know what's happening. So and then someone like donated paint so we could repaint it, and like that like I feel like people like took our concerns seriously and listened to us. So I think that generally the university is pretty supportive.
Yeah, and when another big one is when folks were removing flyers and signs for it was for, I think it was for both events actually, but when we found out that when you're on campus, there's all kinds of boards where folks post event flyers and whatnot, and all of our event flyers are getting taken down. And we went to student involvement and leadership, which is kind of the head of all the student organizations. And we told them what was happening. And I believe they took it rather seriously. Unfortunately, with those public boards, sometimes there's not a whole lot to be done, but they also offered like a bunch of options for us to try to get our message out in different ways, like digitally, so people can't take it down, or other ways that we could get the word out to kind of get around the fact that that was happening.
Yeah, I think generally when you like speak up about it and you like make like you get them to listen to you, like they'll do something about it, or they'll like help you solve the problem, or like help you find a solution. And so yeah.
And just overall, like the whole reason that the office, which is fairly young, we're only 5 years old, that the Office of LGBTQA Affairs exists and the staff position exists is because students petitioned the president. They went to the president of the university and said, you know, this is an issue. We need to have a person and a place, and we need to have all of these things like other minority students do. And so I think that's the epitome of, we saw an issue, students saw an issue, and they pushed, and like for years, this was a somewhat long process, pushed for years to get the community engagement room, which is the CER that Drew was talking about, to then get that space and then get the office and the staff person. So overall, even though it takes some extra time, the university as a whole is responsive to those pushes, those requests.
Thank you all for sharing that. And so, as you mentioned, it is a newer office on campus within the Culture and Identity Center umbrella. So if you guys could just share maybe some experiences that you've had with the Culture and Identity Centers and how it has influenced your college journey.
Especially throughout my freshman year, I hang out in the community engagement room a lot, and that was where I met like most of my friends, and that's how I really like interacted with people a lot of the time. And I think that it's a really great place to just like go and meet people and hang out in between classes or whatever. So I would really recommend that people stop by and hang out there.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, just basically any experiences that you've had with the Culture and Identity Centers and how it's helped you along your college journey.
Yeah. So over last summer, it was last summer, not this last summer, but the last summer before that. I like worked with a lot of the other like Culture and Identity Center people, and I liked the change, like the move that we had into the Culture and Identity Center, because I feel like it has like taught me a little bit more about diversity, and taught me a little bit more about inclusion as well, and how I can like be an ally not only to, you know, my community, but also to like their communities as well. And so it's like really like opened my eyes and like opened me to like new experiences and to new people, and it has helped me to just like I don't know what I was gonna say next. But yeah, and then just like the community engagement room is a great place. Like I met a lot of my friends there, or a lot of the people I still keep in contact with. And yeah, it's just, and it's a safe place. Like I feel safe in that space. And it's a place like where I can like go to get away from like everything and just be myself and relax and not have to worry about anything. And like, I know like my freshman year, I was so afraid of like going in those spaces, but like when I was actually in the spaces, I felt completely comfortable and like I was like meant to be there and stuff. So it was really nice.
Yeah, we're missing our space right now. Wish we were open, because as Jules sort of mentioned, LGBTQA Affairs just moved in to, not just, I mean, it's been like a year and a half, but moved in with the other culture and identity centers in Millette Hall a year and a half ago. And so, and that's actually when I started in the position as well. So it's been really nice to be around the other culture and identity center staff and the other students. And it's just a really nice like space to just interact with each other. And I will say as a student, and I will plug this for Rainbow, I spent a lot of time in the Rainbow office as a student, and we do still have that space, and you all are there. So that is available, even if the culture and identity centers aren't right now. Um, and then also the women, I spent a lot of time in the women's center as well. So I did a lot of the same things back then, study, hang out, meetings, everything in that space as a student. If I wasn't, and I lived on campus all 4 years. So if I wasn't in my, like at home, like if I wasn't in my dorm or apartment, I was in the culture and identity center or the Rainbow office. So home away from home.
Thank you again for all sharing that. I do want to encourage anybody who has any questions to go ahead and put them in the chat or the Q&A. The next question we have here is, how do you think your experience would have been different if you attended a different university than Wright State? Or something that's unique about Wright State that you'd like to share?
Well, I'll go. I'm looking at graduate schools currently. And one thing I'm looking for is like LGBTQA spaces. And I'm finding like no LGBTQA spaces in a lot of other universities, or if they do have LGBTQA spaces, they're very small. And it's like, it's uncomfy. And so I think just like actually having the space. I also think like the use of like pronouns is like a big deal at Wright State, bigger of a deal than it is in, you know, anywhere else, generally speaking. And I think like Rainbow Alliance, like the club specifically, is really large at Wright State. Like at least that's how it seems to me. Is like it's really important. And that just might be because I'm there, you know, often. But I do think that it has like a big impact on students and like is really like helpful. And I just see a lot of places without LGBTQA spaces. So yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't look at colleges that much when I was taking college, and I'm not looking at grad schools yet. So I agree with Jules.
That's fair. I had the same college experience. I didn't look at many colleges, and I go to grad school at Wright State now, and I went to undergrad. But I do love Wright State while I'm still here. And so if anyone has any questions, feel free to, but I think like the last question that we'll end on, and all three of the panelists can answer it, is if you were giving advice to one like high school senior that was, you know, exploring colleges now, or might be enrolling at Wright State in the fall, what is a few pieces of advice that you would give them?
Should I go first because I'm the oldest?
Sure.
because my reasons are way back when and they still are here. Because I'm still here. I like to joke I've held every single role there is on Wright State's campus. So why did I pick it? All the things. Because I was thinking as the other, like in the last question, like all the things, like it was just far enough from home, but just close enough from home, like close enough to home. It was affordable. It was even like living, like I could live there. It was still affordable. It had great, like I really enjoyed the amenities. I enjoyed being on campus and having the opportunity to be in all kinds of student orgs. Not only was I involved in LGBTQA stuff, but I was in student government. And I feel like I was in lots of other things too that I can't think of right now. But also the programs. So I started off in theater, and our theater, dance, and motion pictures department is incredible. And but like I started there and still stayed in an incredible program because I ended up in our women, gender, and sexuality studies program, which is just as amazing. And put me on the track to get through all of the things, to go to grad school, to do the work that I'm doing now. So I could talk about Wright State probably all day, but that's just a couple of reasons why I am student, faculty, and staff, and proud alumni of Wright State.
Obviously, I think a really big thing when you're looking at colleges is just like how much it costs, and like Wright State can get a bad rap sometimes, but like you're getting a really good education, and it's like actually like relatively affordable for like college, for like a university that's not like a community college or like Sinclair or anything. And there's not a lot of opportunity. Wow, did I just go out again? Did I just stop working?
So you're back.
Cool. Awesome. Cool. Who knows what you heard? Write her up.
Sorry,
That's all. I'm not gonna try and repeat myself. I don't know what you heard me say.
That was just funny. Okay, anyway, I would tell students that for one, this is a decent college. Like it is affordable. It has a great community feel. The education is fine. Like there's no reason to like hate on Wright State. And so, and also I would say like it's your journey. Like you got to make the most of it. And by getting involved and meeting people, and like you got to ask yourself like, what do I want to see when I look back on this in a few years or in 30 years or something? Like, how do you want your experience to be? Like, do you like what do you want to look back on? What do you want to reflect on? And I think that really like determines like a lot, and that like helps you just make decisions and like guide your life choices and stuff in college, and just by doing what you want and following your dreams, why not? Yeah.
Also, I just want to add that I think that as you might be able to tell, I think that choosing a college is a little bit overhyped, and that obviously like make sure they have like what you want to major in, that's a good one, like, but it's whatever you pick is going to probably alter the course of your life, and you're going to meet different people, and it's going to be completely different no matter where you pick. But it doesn't mean that any of those options are good or bad. And it's just like what you make of it. So like, don't stress too much. Just pick one.
Pick Wright State.
Yeah, that's a good advice. Just pick one. Honestly, I'd say too, like just like warn people, I guess, to like not get overwhelmed by like all the changes that happen in college, because like it's normal for changes to happen. It's normal for your views to be challenged and your worldview to be shook. And so like be prepared to be challenged.
Also, sorry, I just like went sideways and then I was like, oh wait, what was the question? I also just wanted to add, and I think it's really important that we're doing like a session for first gen, because I was first gen and it was pretty overwhelming. So I want to say, like, advice wise, don't be afraid to like ask for help, or like even ask for help like as you're going through, like, even if you have already gotten to college, like, or you're here on campus, like, don't be afraid to ask for help or to ask other people to walk you through things, especially like with all the financial things, with all the like class things. Like, some people know what a syllabus is, some people don't, some people have never heard of that before. So yeah, so don't be afraid to ask for help and support. That's what we're here for.
I want to thank you all. Those were all really great things. And I think that was a great way to wrap up. Of course, we're still taking questions. If you have any, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll probably stay on for a few minutes. And if there is no questions, we will just end the event. I want to do a special thank you to the Office of LGBTQA Affairs and all of our wonderful panelists for joining us tonight and sharing their insight. I do want to encourage you to go to the social media for the Office of LGBTQA Affairs, because it is Trans Resource Week, and I know there's some great information on there. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to the admissions office. If you would like to get connected with anyone on the panel today, you can email the admissions office, and I can make sure that you get in contact with them. And thank you for everyone who attended as well. You guys have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Oh.
Okay, there went the last attendee, so I'm just going to go ahead and end it. Thank you guys again. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
You too.